Alright, so for this video, several have requested how to replace the image cable. Now, I avoided this video for a long time because once I publish this video, a ton of questions come. So, to replace this image cable, first off, a little bit of information. This image cable is the same for the original Zino. The original Zino that is the Zino Y and the Zino Pro. It is not for the Zino 2. So you can use this on any Zino version from the original to the Zino Pro. The only cable that is different between the two models is your gimbal cable, but for the image cable it is the same. So you'll receive it and it's going to be a little creased and folded. It kind of bothers me, but it's not a big deal. So we're going to just set that aside. I'm trying to fix that crease. There. It's a pretty big cable. So once we get it all together, oops, I keep kicking that camera. Once we get it all together, you'll see why it's so long. So first off, we have to remove the camera. So we want to, or the gimbal. So we want to remove this, and then we want to unplug from the board. Also have your battery out. And always, mine might come apart easier than yours because I've had this apart before. So you want to carefully peel back this tape or this sticky cable. So your ribbon cable has glue on it, and you want to just carefully peel that back so you do not rip the cable. And just let them sit like that. So now you want to take, I use a real small screwdriver, very small tip, and I just push these gimbal dampeners down like this. Just like that. Now you have these big pieces of foam on here, so you want to just push those down through the hole. So you go down at an angle, and there's your camera. So we're going to put the quad aside, and these are marked. This one says image, and this one says motor. So we're going to replace the image cable. First thing we need to do is take this back plate off. You want to pry it from the top. You'll see there's a raised side right here. This is the side I always pry from. It seems to come off a lot easier. So pry from the top, it comes right off. There should be a piece of foam in there. You can see that piece of foam. If you do not have that piece of foam, you want to get something, a little piece, some sort of little piece of foam, cut it to that size and glue it there, because what that does is it holds your gimbal motor connector in place. And as you know, if you own a Zino, many of you might know that that does pop a little bit loose, and then you have to press on the back of this to get it to go back in place. So you want to make sure that you have a little piece of foam there. Don't go too thick because you can put too much pressure on there. So it just needs to be just a little bit of foam to stick in place there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take and peel this portion first. This is the image cable. The one that says roll, that's the one we're not going to mess with. So do not disturb that cable. So let's just go ahead and continue unpeeling, and it's all stick in place. And then it goes underneath this side piece that's glued and stick. Try to do it without ripping, but you're replacing it, so if you rip it, it's not a big deal. So now we're all unattached from that. So all you're doing is you're just following the cable and unsticking it until you get to this part here. So now once we get to this part right here on the side, we're going to unpeel this. You simply get underneath there, carefully, and that comes off. It's just adhesive. So now we have 2 screws. We're going to remove those. This is where you want to be very careful because you'll see once I open it. There's a bearing in there that's kind of holding us in place. So that bearing goes into this hole and it makes it snug. So if you can see here, I don't know how well you can see it, but the cable loops around, and it loops around this hole, this screw hole, and it loops around that screw hole. So it loops here, and it goes a loop here. It's like a loop and a half right here. And then it goes into the lens itself. So we want to take this back plate off, and there's 2 screws there. So we remove those. Put them aside. This cover doesn't always come off easily. Sometimes I tap it and it comes off, and then sometimes I have to use something to help me get it off. So that's that. And then you have your thermal protection right here. That we have to remove. And you can reuse it, but you don't want to touch it with your fingers. So usually it will come off in one piece. Sometimes they're very brittle, they'll come apart. So you just want to be a little bit careful. And you want to put that somewhere where you're not going to have oil or something on it. So put it right back on the back of your cover. And then you'll see right here is the plug for the cable. We're going to pop that off. Try. There. So now that's off, and it's going to slide out the side here. Now it does have a sticky back on it, so it might not be easy at first. But we have to undo all this first. Now this is where you might want to take your phone, take a picture. You want to see how this is all wound up, because it is a little tricky. This is where most people are going to have probably the most questions. So it's glued here. Just unpeel it and then just start pulling it out, and you'll see it uncoils. See, that's a lot of wire in there. So it's uncoiled and going into here, and we have a little slot that we can pull it out of. But like I said, there is a sticky back adhesive to it, so it does make it a little difficult at first. It might be easier if you kind of pull it out and then pull it this way, so you break that adhesive loose, and then you can slide it out of this crack right here, and we're out. So that's our bad cable. This one did not show any indication of why it's bad. There's sometimes you don't know till you get it out and you can check it out. And I'm not seeing anything. There we go. Sometimes it's as simple as this right here. When they delaminate like this, it's not always a bad thing, but sometimes they stop working. See if I can show you better. See how it's opened up? So that might be where it might have heated up, delaminated, and failed. So that's no good. So that's probably what's wrong with this cable. So now we're going to put the new one on, and you'll see you have a lot of stuff, a lot of little places to unpeel to get that adhesive off. I pull them all off right off the bat, except for this one here. I wait until I have it back in the quad and then I peel that one off. So I'm going to peel all these off. Just go on down. I don't like to peel them off while I'm trying to install the cable. You can do it how you want to do it. This is how I do it. And I do about one of these a week, at least. If you don't know, I work on these for people. And on average, I am working on 3 to 5 Zinos a week here lately. They're kind of hard to get off because the static on your fingers and everything, they want to stay. And then once you have them off, of course, it's going to be sticking to your hand and all that. So you got to be careful with it. But like I said, I like to have it all removed while I'm working on putting it back in here. So now let's get started where we ended, and we're going to slide this in. And you can see this new one is delaminated as well. That is not uncommon. See that? It's not uncommon that they come that way. So I'd still install them, and usually they work. But sometimes they fail because of that. So it took a month to get the cable. You're not going to just toss it aside because of that. You're going to install it. So let's slide it back through that slot. And I like to go ahead and plug it in because that way I have it all in position. So let's get it in there if it wants to. And try to get it plugged in. And then that way we're all set in our position. I'm sorry, it's very hard to do this and show you at the same time, but just get it over top of where it plugs in. Be very careful plugging these back in. You'll feel it click, and then it's back in place. Now we're in the proper position to where we can start doing our work on this side. So naturally, it's very easy to see that it wants to go clockwise. So we're just going to coil around one time. And again, this is going to be hard for me to do it and show you, but we're going to coil around once, and then we're going to go, it'll be 1.5 times around. So now we're around. So I've gone around that part 1.5 turns. And then we come to this screw here. We go underneath that screw pole. Okay, and then we come around this one the opposite direction. So we have this other screw pole right here. We're going to come around it like this. So we're going to come across it like this and around. Try to do this where you can see it, where I can. It's very hard to have you be able to see it, but then once we're in place and it's touching the base, I fold it and stick it like that. So right there, I folded it and it's now stuck in place. and then I'll show you how it ran around. Let me make sure it's all good and secure before I let my finger off. Okay. So we come out of here, we come from here, and we go out here, and then we're right here at this point. We go around one time, and then half. And then we come down this screw here, and we go under it. So if we're looking this way, you come around once and a half, under that screw pole, then we go over this screw pole and under, and then fold and come out. So I hope that's an easy way to explain it for you, but at this point right here, you definitely want to get this cover back on now, because that can come uncoiled and you have to do it all over again. So we're going to put this back in, get that bearing back in place. Just set it like that, get our screws. The screws for these and that back plate are the same ones, so you don't have to worry about mixing those up. And be very careful. It does require some pressure, so you want to make sure you got a good firm hold on it here. So I'm not going to stick that sticky part back on yet. Let's go ahead and get the heat sink back in place. So let me turn it this way, and let's try to grab that. Put it back in place, and then put the cover back on, like so. Those screws. See if I can set it down. Put the screws back. Try to keep it where you can see it. Okay, so your two screws are back in place. You want to check this, make sure it moves nicely. If it does, you did a good job and coiled it properly. If you coil this wrong, if you go around too many times, it's not going to come out here properly, and this is going to be very tight. So now we've come around here. You want to take this cable and actually lay it down. And come around with your loop. Like that is what you're going to end up doing. Let me turn it. Okay, so see that loop I'm creating? So I'm not going to stick it yet. We're going to get our position right here. This part right here. Put our position there. That way the rest will fall in line. Gently just kind of push it around there, because you want to be able to have some down in the fold when you put that cover back on. And then you fold this back over, and the corner should hit the edge. It's not something you can see really, but there's a little edge there. So make sure you're on that edge. I don't like the way it is, so I'm going to redo it until I get it perfect. There we go. So we come around here, we're on this edge, and now I can go around. If you have tiny fingers, you can go around and make sure it sticks. Sometimes you can get your fingers in there if they're small, like I said, and you can make it stick. Okay, so now we have that loop in our fold here, and now we can press this down in there lightly and see that we have all the flex. So when I put the cover back on, there's enough room for that to give. So let's snap that baby back on. That's locked in place. We're good to go there. We can put this back on. Just simply line it up, re-stick it. And that's done. Now we have the top where it comes out in the top of your quad. So you're simply just creating another loop. And you're putting it right here in this slot. So there's a little slot right here. Right there. We're just sticking it in there. Get your finger behind it and try to make it stick. Try to get my pinky in there. There, should be stuck now. Now it's stuck in place, and you can take some, what I've showed in my past videos, you can take some liquid tape and just dab a little bit right here, dab a little bit right there to make sure it doesn't ever unstick from that. And then again, just go around here with your pinky or whatever small fingers you prefer, and make sure it's all stuck right here. So it's all stuck right there now. We have our loop. You can see the loop right there. And we went behind this and up through this slot right there. Okay, so we can put it back in the quad. Set it aside and bring the quad back over. You want to be careful. Another thing I want to show you. We don't have the piece of foam on there. We can take that off the old cable. But you want to be careful pushing the piece of foam up through that hole. It's tight. So it's best to have the quad upside down. Take your gimbal, start the cables through the hole first, and just get them started. This one doesn't have a piece of foam on it, so it's easier. And then I take the quad, also easier without props, but take the quad and start bringing the wires up, and there they are. So our wires are up. Now we need to get our gimbal dampeners lined up, and you just look through the bottom and you line them up. You want to get all 4 of them in at one time. There is a little bit of a trick to this once you get them in there. Okay, we have all 4. A lot of times people will try to work on these and then something goes wrong and they still send them to me, and I find that they have pulled these all the way through. You don't want to do that. You want to do this. Lightly pull, add a little pressure as you're pulling until that pulls through. So I just turn and add a little pressure as I go till it pops. Like that. Okay. And then you're done there. Now we can take this sticky back off. You got a little tracks there that you can follow to put your cables in. You want to make sure you put them exactly in spot because it makes it line up to the board much easier. If you're way off here like that, it's not going to be easy to put it on the board. So let's put it on track. As exact as we can be, like that. And then we plug into the board. It's much easier plugging them into the board without a piece of foam on it because you can actually see the plug and line it up. But never force these. You just wiggle them around, get them in place until you feel it click. So I'll shut my mouth and let you listen. See if you hear it. There we go. With that big piece of foam on there, you can't see the plug. But I first try, feel it, and it's in. So now that's in. We can go to the old cable, carefully peel that off, put it right back in place. When you're done, just put the quad back together and power it on, and you should have FPV if that was your problem. If that wasn't your problem, it could have been, you could have a bad camera lens. Do I have one here? Yep, I do. Here's a camera lens. It could be that module. That could be bad, or you could have a bad board. But the cheapest, easiest thing to do first is replace this image cable like I just did here, and then reconnect to your quad and see if you have FPV. But this one is all done. Just need to put it all back together. So at the end of this video, you'll see popping up on the screen how to take it apart to get to this point. And I have another video that shows you how to do the gimbal cable, and that might be for Zino, I don't remember, but for Zino and Zino Pro, it's basically the exact same process. It's just for the motor cable you have a different cable, and for the image cable it's the same for Zino, Zino Y, and Zino Pro. So I'll do a video where I'll give you more in-depth explanations about the gimbals and these cables being different, show you the cables, how to identify them when you're buying them, and all that. So I'll do a complete video on that alone. But this is the video that you guys have requested for the image cable. I apologize if it was hard to see. That's another reason why I've avoided doing this video, just because your hands are in there. It doesn't matter what angle I shoot from. My fingers and hands will always be in the way. Plus it's dark. I have all kinds of bright lights on me right now, and it's still hard for you to see. So hopefully when I showed you the way that cable goes and wraps around, hopefully you were able to see that well and follow it, and all went well. So I encourage everybody to try this on your own, but if you have any problem, especially if you're in the States, after you've tried, if it doesn't work, or if you're just too intimidated by it, feel free, you can send it to me. I don't charge a lot of money to do these repairs, but if you're in the States, it's a lot easier because shipping is much cheaper. But I receive these from all over the world to do repairs on them. So more than capable to be able to fix anything on your quad, but I do always encourage people to try first. So that's how you replace the image cable. Hope you like this video. If so, give it a thumbs up. If not, give it a thumbs down. And if you're new to my channel, definitely hit subscribe and hit that bell for future content. And we'll catch you on the next video. Take care.